Good afternoon. Welcome to the Big Honey Sports Podcast. I am G Rock. Doing this solo today. Unfortunately, Big Sean was unable to join, so it'll just be me today. I had to do this takeover again, but we were pretty accurate in week one with our stardom situms. Both of our quarterbacks we picked, respectfully, Josh Allen and Big Ben, both cracked the top 10. So we were pretty good on that. A couple situms we were correct on, and it was just a good overall week one fantasy predictions. So we appreciate you coming back, checking it out again, and without further ado, let's drop into week two of my stardom situms. So my first stardom of the week will be Mike Evans. Mike Evans, Buccaneers, played pretty, badly on Monday. Just kidding, not Monday. On last Sunday. He was pretty quiet the entire game. He did salvage it with a touchdown late in the game, but the volume just wasn't there, which is kind of weird. But, Mike Evans is kind of one of those guys who struggled against the Saints for a long time. So the trend continued last Sunday. But I don't think that's going to continue this Sunday. He's playing the Panthers. Panthers defense did a pretty good job of quieting down the Raiders' passing attack. But the Raiders didn't need to pass it, so I wouldn't look too far into that. They were relying on Josh Jacobs the whole game, rushing the ball. So Derek Carr wasn't really needing to pass it against the Panthers. And I don't think that trend continues this week. The Panthers will have to play Tom Brady, obviously. I think Tom Brady's going to spread it out, and he's going to find Mike Evans quite a bit in this one. So Mike Evans, if you have him, you need to start him because he's going to have a good week. Also, Chris Godwin just got declared that he won't be playing for Sunday tomorrow. So Mike Evans, the volume will be there. Definitely start him. Second up is T.Y. Hilton. T.Y. Hilton also had a pretty quiet game with his new quarterback, Phillip Rivers. They got beaten by the Jags. T.Y. Hilton had 4 catches, only 53 yards. But encouraging news was that he was targeted 9 times by Phillip Rivers. So Phillip Rivers was looking his way, but the chemistry clearly wasn't there. They will get that going, I think, this week in a favorable matchup against the Vikings, who just allowed Devontae Adams to eclipse 40 fantasy points. I don't know what that translates to, but he had a ridiculous stat line. I think he caught 2 touchdowns, and he obviously had over 120 yards receiving or something like that on like 12 grabs. I don't remember what exactly it was, but I expect that trend to continue. The Vikings don't have Xavier Rhodes anymore, so they don't have that shutdown corner. So I think T.Y. Hilton gets loose, and Phillip Rivers targets him quite a bit. God, this is weird to do by yourself. The third stardom of the week is Austin Ekeler. Again, another disappointing stat line. He was good as a rusher. He rushed for 84 yards. And then he only brought in 1 catch for 3 yards. So they weren't targeting him very much, which is kind of odd. But you did know that there was a new quarterback there. Tyrod Taylor doesn't typically spread the ball around that way. But either way, I think Austin Ekeler finds the end zone this week. He's playing the Chiefs. Chiefs allowed David Johnson to look like he was flourishing again. How much of that is on David Johnson? Who knows? But the Chiefs, clearly the rushing attack could be vulnerable, or the rush defense, I should say, could be vulnerable, and especially with a back like Austin Ekeler, faster, more agile, I think he will have a good day versus the Chiefs. Even if it turns into a blowout, Tyrod Taylor will start dumping it off to Ekeler, so he can rack up fantasy points that way too. But I think Ekeler finds the end zone for sure this week, which alone salvages his fantasy. But you're starting him anyways. Like, I don't know why you wouldn't start him. So if you're on the fence about starting him, don't be. He's going to be fine. 3 sit-ums. These are a little bit of hot takes. but I think they pan out. So Deshaun Watson's my number one sit-em of the week. He was shut down last season by the Ravens pretty substantially. He got a miserable 3.96 fantasy points the last time he faced the Ravens. He was terrible. He was on my team as well, so I remember very well how that happened. The Ravens' defense is legitimate this year. They have Jim Harbaugh, whichever Harbaugh he is, but he's a defensive-minded coach, and it's showing off. They held Baker Mayfield to under 10 points last week, fantasy-wise. Mayfield was struggling, and he's got more weapons than Lamar Jackson, I feel like. So, not Lamar Jackson. More weapons than Deshaun Watson. I'm mixing up all my teams here. This is hard to do when you're on your own. But the Ravens defense, they shut down Baker Mayfield, Odell Beckham, all these guys on the Browns, and I think that continues. Deshaun Watson has less weapons. It's just not gonna be a good day for him. I think it'll be a blowout. And if you start Deshaun Watson, you should not want to, because it's just not a good day. It's not going to be a good day for him. Going along with that, this goes into my number 2 sit-em of the week. This guy is Will Fuller, the 5th, I think is what technically he is called. Will Fuller, the 5th. He is facing the Ravens, obviously. He was pretty good last week. However, if you look at the stats just from last week, and I know we have a small sample size, so you can't take too much of it to heart, but they held OBJ, who's obviously a better receiver, you would think, than Will Fuller, they held OBJ to 22 yards last week. And he only got them, OBJ only got his owners 5.2 points. So you could say the same will probably happen to Will Fuller. He is the number 1 target. He's the number 1 receiver on the depth chart, and obviously that warrants a number 1 matchup on the other side. I think the Ravens will shut him down, Will Fuller, that is. So if you have Will Fuller, I would be very cautious if you're going to think about starting him. I think you could probably do better. There's probably better options out there. Third sit-em of the week, final sit-em of the week, and then this video's over. Malcolm Brown. Malcolm Brown in his debut of the season last week with the Rams, rushed twice into the end zone, and also accumulated, I don't know how many yards, but it was an impressive amount. Let's look it up real quick, just for kicks. Malcolm Brown, 79 yards. He scored twice. He also had 3 catches for 31 yards. So he was very active, right? Who knows how much of that's on the fact that the Rams just kind of controlled the ball the whole game, and they were just rushing it. And also, you have to take into account the fact the Cowboys started losing defenders. Van Der Esch, another big-time defender, was also injured in the game, I believe. And that does play a big role. But the fact is, with the Rams' rushing attack, it's a 3-headed committee. Okay, Sean McVay's admitted that, and Malcolm Brown, yes, he was the guy last week. I don't know how sustainable that is. You've got Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson as well, and they were the quiets last week. But when you have a 3-headed committee, the fact is it's probably going to shift from week to week which one capitalizes the most. So the matchup is against the Eagles as well, okay? The Eagles gave up 17 straight points to the Washington football team, and they lost, right? However, if you look at the stats from last week, the defensive line at least did hold their own. They allowed 2 of the running backs on the football team to rush for 65 total yards. And that was on 28 total carries. So the Eagles' rushing defense is pretty good. At least it was to start the week. And I think they could have a little bit more of a say in this one as to maybe shutting down the Rams' attack on the rush a little bit. So I don't like Malcolm Brown for that reason. Region number 1, the volume might not be there this week. He might not be the guy. It might be Cam Akers. It might be Darrell Henderson. And when you have a committee like that, it's just not reliable. And the second reason, again, you're playing a pretty stout Eagles defense, and I think that could kind of, make them sway away from the rush attack. So those are my stardom sit-ems. Hopefully they pan out. I think they will. I did pretty elaborate research this week, and that will continue. I want to thank you for tuning in, and hopefully next week we'll have a legit podcast with the studio and everything. But until that time, have a great day.